Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Ballabha Hiri Vadadhari. Gopijana Ballabha Hiri Vadadhari. Yasodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana. Jamuna Tera Banachari. Yamuna Tera Banachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Ballabha Hiri Vadadhari. Gopijana Ballabha Hiri Vadadhari. Yasodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana. Jamuna Tera Banachari. Yamuna Tera Banachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravagatacharya Osatara Satashi Shimad. His Divine Grace Abhaya Charanad Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrind Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Gijai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Bhagavata Saim Gunradakunda Giri Govardhan Gijai Vrindavanam Gijai Maturanam Gijai Jagannath Swami Gijai Yamunamai Gijai Srimati Lasadeva Gijai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Gijai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bom. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda. Okay, it's a big turnout. Dharmaraj didn't come, and the rest of the Fiji Wallace didn't come.
Yamaraj always comes.
What's that?
Yamaraj always comes.
Yamaraj?
Yes.
Oh, that Yamaraj, yeah, I just thought there was another devotee here named Yamaraj, you know.
That was a joke.
So, that's a joke, okay. Om Ganad Timananda Shah, Ganad Shana Shalakaya Chakshura Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, anyway, we'll just turn to the general darshan. Does anyone have any questions? Or, what? So cool.
Can you maybe explain about Kapila Deva?
Ah, very interesting. About the incarnation of Krishna, Kapila Deva. Okay. So, Kapila Deva was the son of Devahuti, sometimes called Devahuti Putra, and Kardama. You know, the other day we were talking about Kashyapa and Diti, that's a different couple. But this is Kardama and Devahuti. And actually we tell a little bit about their mother and father. Kardama was a great sage, and he was a Brahmin. And Devahuti was what we call a Kshatriya girl. A Kshatriya girl means born into like warrior class. You know, Brahmin means like a priestly class, or, you know, like intellectual class. And so she was very much accustomed to living in a very soft life as a Kshatriya girl. In fact, it's described in the Bhagavatam that she was so much protected from men when she was young that she would only be guarded by ladies and also eunuchs.
Unicorns?
No, eunuchs. Eunuchs mean, you know what a eunuch is. Eunuchs. And she would play on the top of her palace. She would never go outside. And then the Gandharvas, or demigods, when they would go by, that she was so beautiful, they would fall out of their airplanes. That's a story from the Bhagavatam. Anyway, so her marriage was arranged with a Brahmin, and in those days, Brahmins were not like Kali Yuga Brahmins. In Kali Yuga Brahmins, they lived very opulently, but in those days, the Brahmanas, they lived, very simply. Actually, it's one of the qualities of a Brahmin, that even if someone gives a Brahmin charity, it away. He doesn't live opulently. So, therefore, there was a problem. She gets married, not really a problem, but she adjusted because she was so dedicated to her husband, Kardama, that she adjusted to that particular environment, and described that previously, she had all these beautiful features, and, after a while she was still beautiful, but it started to look a little haggard because obviously she didn't have all that nice food to eat anymore. And so that was her dedication. Really interesting. So after a few years of her husband seeing, how dedicated she was, he thought, well, she deserves a little bit better life than this. I'm paraphrasing. You know the story, right? And so he created an airplane, not only an airplane, not like a 747 or a jumbo jet, but it was like a whole village. They could fly in the sky. And it had servants and everything like that. So in other words, she was living really nicely, even nicer than she was before before she was married. And so they were flying around in this beautiful, giant airplane. And as they were flying around the airplane, anyway, there was after some time, she had some children. She had daughters, 9 daughters. And he actually also wanted a son. So there was some more austerity, and she gave birth to someone named Kapila Deva. And that's just parents at the time of conception determines what type of soul is attracted. So, you know, if the parents are thinking or getting drunk or something like that, then you're going to have like a pretty crazy kid. But if the parents are actually refined consciousnesses, called the Govardhan sanskara, they actually have a great soul can come. I mean, it's not guaranteed. Nothing's guaranteed. You know, it's still a roll of the dice. But still, and even if you do get raising that great soul, the great soul is contaminated by different experiences, isn't it? You know, we talked about that the other day, nature and nurture, what someone's born with and what happens after you're born. Like, most of us someone's coming? Or no, they're just passing by. They're coming. Come righty. This is India, it's better than Fiji.
There's more room inside down there.
Escape. Oh, just the parents. So, but even if you have someone good, then later on they can become polluted by bad association. So anyway, so Kapila is good, and he had good association. After he was born, his father took sannyas. You're saying, why did his father take sannyas? You know, isn't that a little irresponsible? Well, you have to understand in those days that the family extended means you had like mothers, brothers, sisters, everybody else. So it's not that she was just dropped off in the forest or something like that. But in any case, he was a renounced Brahmin. And so she took shelter in her son, who was actually older at that time. Not immediately after he took birth. He actually was older, able to talk and able to preach philosophy. So anyway, so there's this whole dialogue that's there in the Srimad Bhagavatam between her and her son. And it starts with a question, I forget the Sanskrit, but I'm sick of the I know the English. I'm sick of the disturbances caused by the senses. I'm trying to remember the Sanskrit for it. What's the Sanskrit? I remember the last line, Prapanamam Adam Prabho. That's the last line of the Sanskrit verse. Anyway, if any of you know the Sanskrit verse? No, I guess not. Anyway, so she said, I'm sick of the disturbances caused by the senses. Which the senses means, you know, the tongue, the belly, genitals, you know, nose, the eyes. Because we're actually being pulled around by these various elements of the material creation. And of course, the mind is the controlling factor of the senses. And higher than the mind is the intelligence, and higher than the intelligence is the soul. Well, there's the ego in between, but that's the soul, false ego, and real ego. So that's why yoga, the whole point is, you know, stop the vritti, or the turning of the mind, isn't it? Because when you can control the mind, you can control the other senses. So anyway, she said to Lord Kapila Deva, I'm sick of the disturbances caused by the senses, because, you know, people getting dragged around here and there. And so I surrendered. She actually surrendered to her son. She said, Prapananam Adam Tamo, Prabho, sorry. She called her son master in this particular verse, which is interesting. And then he began to teach to her something called Sankhya philosophy. Now, Sankhya and yoga are a pair. Did you ever teach like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's other pairs, you know. Anyway, there's Vaisheshika and Nyaya, which is another pair. There's 6 darshans in the Vedic culture. And then there's Purva Mimamsa and Uttara Mimamsa are another pair. So, I guess I can describe. So, Vaisheshika is basically modern science. Everything is atoms or particles and things like that. Nyaya is logic, you know, the rules of logic and reasoning, like Aristotelian logic, something like that, very similar. And then, okay, so Yoga and Sankhya, they form a pair because Sankhya is actually the foundation for the practice of yoga. That's probably why you asked the question. And Sankhya means, basically the word means to count. That's a direct definition of the word Sankhya. And so it basically means counting, of course we don't do all these things, you know, counting all the material elements. And not just counting them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but just being aware of them and how they interact. So you got the material elements like earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. Then you have their senses, the sense objects, etc., like that. And then ultimately you have the soul, the super soul. It's Krishna, you know. Some Sankhites, the atheist Sankhites have 24 elements, and the theistic have 25 elements. So that's Sankhya philosophy. So she was teaching this to, he was teaching this philosophy to his mother of Sankhya philosophy. And his mother, being very intelligent, understood everything. And basically, but at the end, he comes up to this statement, which is really interesting. Satam prasangam amavirya samvaro bhavanti ritkarna rasayana kata tajoshadadashu apavarga vartmani shadavatira bhakti anukramishati. He actually starts talking about bhakti. And this statement is very interesting. He says, if you really want to get liberated from this world, the ultimate thing is satam prasangam, which means to have association with advanced devotees. Satam, which are sat. Sat means eternal. Satam means those who are, absorbed in the eternal, which means advanced spiritualists. Prasangam means to associate. And then he says, Mama virya samvadaha. Mama means not me, but it means him. Because it's not me talking, it's him. Mama virya. Virya means heroic. It's a Sanskrit word. Virya or vira. Just like my name in Sanskrit is Vira Krishna. And sometimes people ask me, why are you called beer? And I jokingly say, that's because it's alcoholic beverage, but beer. But actually the name, it's a Bengali pronunciation and spelling of the word in Sanskrit vira, which means heroic or a lot of potency, like that vira. And also virya, the same thing. So mama virya samvidaha. Samvida means basically the talks, or conversation. Basically means conversation in Sanskrit. So satam prasanga mama virya samvida. So the advanced spiritualists, they engage in associating with other advanced spiritualists and hear about Krishna's heroic activities. And in this way, bhavanti ritkarna, that means it's a verb to be. In this way, ritkarna, rit means heart, and karna refers to the ear. Bhavanti ritkarna rasayana kata. That this transcendental sound becomes like a rasayana. And rasayana is a word used in Ayurvedic medicine. You may have heard this word before if you ever studied Ayurveda. You know, Brahmi rasayana and or Jeev rasayan. It means a tasting medicine that actually gives you some energy or helps you develop your brain. Rasayana kata. Kata also means talks again. Like we say Krishna kata. And then tad ajoshanat ashu apavarga. And in this way, the path of becoming liberated from pavarga, which, because you use the word apavarga. Pavarga refers to the material existence, which is broken up into several different words from the word pavarga. Pa, ma, parishrama, which means hard work, foaming at the mouth, death, all those other things. Pavarga, Tajoshanasha Pavarga Vartmani, the path of suffering in the material world, basically. Apavarga Vartmani. But then the path you'll get is Apavarga Vartmani, which means the liberation from Pavarga. Does everyone follow that? Apavarga Vartmani. And then the path is Shraddha, Ratir, Bhaktir, Anukramishati, which means the path is one of faith, having a taste for spiritual life, or taste for chanting, as we would say, and then ultimately bhakti, which means love. Anukramishati means to follow, what follows one after the other. Anyway, so that's Lord Kapila Dev's ultimate teaching. I don't remember the verse number for that, you know, I'm not so good with numbers of verses, but that's from the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the teachings of Lord Kapila Deva. And then he teaches about, you know, previously he taught about the miseries of the material world, material nature, and all that other stuff, which is all the Sankhya stuff, analysis of Sankhya. And anyway, Kapila in a nutshell.
Is he Krishna's incarnation?
Yes, he's Krishna's incarnation.
Okay.
There's also an atheistic Kapila too. There's two Kapilas. One is the incarnation, the other one was just another guy with the name Kapila who taught atheistic Sankhya. Atheistic Sankhya is just like you analyze the material elements and you come to the point of I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not that. You know, I'm not earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. Or as Prabhupada would sometimes say in a very simple way, point to yourself. You're not the nose, you're not the ears, you're not the hands. You know, point to you. Who are you? Prabhupada said that one time when he was preaching to like kids, just to prove the point. He said, you know, show me who you are. Point to yourself. It's not your hand, not your head. You know. Anyway, so atheistic Sankhya basically means a gradual detachment from the material world through analysis of the material world. And then coming to the point of, I'm not part of this world, which is Sanskrit that's called the neti process. Not this, not this, not that. And then finally you come to the point, well, what the hell am I? and then some people come to the point, but then it's very atheistic. They may come to the point, well, I'm a spirit. But then they have no information of spirit, you know, or they think I'm just one. We're all one ultimately. So that's atheistic Sankhya. But Sankhya and yoga do go together. There has to be, in other words, there has to be some intelligence applied while one is performing yoga. That's basically it. Nyaya is also used in practically all the darshans, all the 6 aspects of the Vedic philosophy. Nyaya means just logic. You have to be logical. Nyaya is also applied in Sankhya, as well as in Purva Mimamsa or Uttara Mimamsa. Purva Mimamsa is something called Karma Mimamsa, which is a quick course in the darshans. Anyway, which means if you act nicely, you get a nice result. It's something like that philosophy or the book, The Secret. You ever heard of that before? You ever heard of that before? Yeah. The Secret. There was a movie. I never read the book, but I saw the movie. Sorry. The movie. It's easier than reading some book. It's just to see the movie. So I saw the movie. The Secret. The movie shows that whatever you want, if you act properly, you'll get. So that's like, it's almost like Karma Mimamsa, which is called Purva. Purva means like the beginning of Mimamsa. Mimamsa means basically to think very clearly. That's what the word means. And Uttara Mimamsa means basically Krishna consciousness. And sometimes so those are the three pairs. And most people now in the Western world, they're more or less like Vaisheshika. You know, that everything is coming through the combination of material elements. You know, that's what they say. Life comes because it's an epiphenomena of matter. Because you have all these material elements interacting, and eventually, you know, life sort of bubbled out of them. But if you examine, and you know, and of course people are very much in favor of the evolutionary concept, you know, that we evolved. Actually, Darwin never said that we evolved from apes. That's a misunderstanding. Darwin said there's a common ancestor that apes and us evolved from. But anyway, so of course that's one of the subjects that I've been studying recently, about evolution and how to counteract the theory of evolution that Darwin proposed and the neo-Darwinists proposed. And as a result, I've been studying a little bit about microbiology or cellular biology. So the further you get into understanding the nature of heredity and the cell, you'll see that evolution is impossible. Why? For several reasons. First of all, the cell is almost infinitely complex. And if you analyze things mathematically, you know, your DNA and the RNA and all that other nice stuff, you'll see that it's mathematically impossible for one species to become another species. One species can change. You know, you can have like, let's say, if it's more favorable for people that have big noses than small noses, then after many generations, the principle of survival of the fittest will favor people with big noses, and you'll have a population of more people with big noses. That happens. It's within one species. It's not a change of species. It's just a change of a few genes. And in fact, according to the recent scientific analysis, we are devolving rather than evolving, because it turns out that, practically speaking, no changes in the genes due to radiation or whatever mutations you call it are favorable. And they're all unfavorable. And not all, I mean 99% of them are unfavorable. And we tend to lose certain aspects as we see. People are getting less proficient and in many ways less intelligent in many ways. And you know, so after a few thousand years, people will be, exactly as the Bhagavatam predicts, shorter and much less fortunate, much less intelligent than we are even today. And you'll see, like in India, you hear about these great sages who a few thousand years ago had perfect memories. I mean, not just one or two people who had photographic memories, but thousands or millions of them who had photographic memories, and the Vedas were passed down verbatim, which means word for word, from guru to disciple. And you don't find that nowadays. I mean, how many disciples are there that you can just tell them something? There were no books in those days. There wasn't a need of books. So people are definitely becoming less intelligent as the time goes on. So you can actually see that this whole Vaisheshika philosophy that everything comes about through the chance interactions of atoms. Of course, it was called atomism at that time, but I'm just projecting it into the modern scientific understanding. Through chance interaction of energy and particles, it's just not going to, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So anyway, so that's one of the Vedic darshans, Vaisheshika and Nyaya. A quick lesson in Vedic darshans.
Interesting.
It's interesting. Anyway, it's interesting. Whatever. It's interesting when, I mean, if anyone wants to delve or study more of these things, it's all available on the internet. You can look up Vaisheshika, you can look up Purva Mimamsa, you can look up Uttara Mimamsa, and there's many citations. You can find out anything you want on the internet now. So, any other questions? Yeah.
Shouldn't there be another incarnation of Krishna after some time? Can you say something about
Yeah. Well, over 500 years ago, we had an incarnation of Krishna. That was Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And at the end of the Kali Yuga, there'll be another one named Kalki.
So at the end?
At the end, that's all.
400,000.
Yeah, over 400,000 years. He'll come around when everybody's pretty bad. And he'll do some operations on people, you know, with using a sword or whatever he's going to use. So, but actually Krishna incarnates in Kali Yuga mostly in his name. It's called the Nama Avatar. So, because that's the Yuga Dharma. So, in the name, you know, there's a statement that about Krishna's name, that Purnashuddha Nityamukto Vinatvam Namanamano Namachintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha, that the name of Krishna is non-different from Krishna, and it's full of all ras, it's full of all taste, you know. Everything is there. It's completely pure, Purnashuddha, it's complete, pure, eternally liberated, Nityamukto Vinatvam Namanamano. It is non-different than Krishna. So that's really the avatar. The word avatar basically means to cross down. It's an interesting word. Tara in Sanskrit, and ava means down. Like you have the word tirtha, which comes from that same word. Tirtha means basically cross up. The opposite. Tirtha, tara. You have the same tara, cross. So when you go to a tirtha, like we are at right now, you're able to cross up, or the tirtha is actually like a crossing place, or in science fiction, what's it called in science fiction? What?
Portal.
A portal, yeah. It's called a portal in science fiction. So right now we're in a portal to the spiritual world, because I don't think we've jumped in the portal yet, but anyway. We're still saying, don't suck me in, you know. So Vrindavan is like a portal to the spiritual world. It is the spiritual world, but you got some covering of Yogamaya, which is Krishna's internal potency that keeps you. And as soon as you leave Vrindavan, you experience a change. Let's say when you're going to experience like a change in atmosphere, change. You'll see the difference. And you don't really, if you're here, you don't experience. You know, here you just like think, oh, this is what life is all about. But when as soon as you leave on the road to Delhi, it's just so many marriages here. Stop this. Anyway, so as soon as you leave, then it's just like different. You know, oh my God, I'm back in the material world again. So that's a tirtha, a portal to the spiritual world. So, other questions? tomorrow morning, or what time?
Not decided yet. Somewhere in the morning.
Like early or something? Yeah.
You mentioned before that Srila Prabhupada, you said this many times, Srila Prabhupada is a Shakti-rich avatar.
Yeah.
And you also said that actually any of I'm sure. So I'm a little curious about that.
Well, the word Avesh, or Shakti Avesh, when you make it one word, Avesh means, empowered basically, or partial. It basically means, and so Shakti means the potency descends. In other words, someone is given a specific type of potency. So it also may mean that someone was in the spiritual world and they came down, but not necessarily in every case. Because that means to be given the potency, be given, like if someone is appointed, I'll give you an example from the Old West in the United States. Like, sometimes, I don't know if any of you have ever seen Western movies, with the cowboys and Indians, poof, poof. You seen them? No. Yeah, everybody's seen them except for Gokul. He's innocent. He was born in a lotus flower. A lotus flower in a lotus position. Like that. But anyway, the rest of us mortals, in the cowboy movies, sometimes they had trouble with too many criminals or too many, well, I guess bad Indians they were trying to kill. And so they had to make someone a deputy even if they weren't qualified. So it's called a deputy sheriff. Do you remember that? Deputy sheriff. And so the person was empowered, but given the power because they needed someone. So sometimes someone's given the power because they need it. Let the force be with you. You know what I'm talking about? Nah. Star Wars. So, anyway, oh my God! So all these examples, not from Shastra. What can I do? It's just like it's life. So anyway, so Prabhupada's sometimes use the examples too from the material world. Probably use the example of Charlie Chaplin. How people follow the leader. You know that story? Prabhupada gave the example. Prabhupada talked about, because when Prabhupada was young, he used to watch Charlie Chaplin movies. Anyone's heard of Charlie Chaplin? These are the silent movies in the early days.
Black and white.
What?
Black and white.
Yeah, black and white, silent movies. And so one time there was a Charlie Chaplin movie and they were all at a dance. There's a famous story Prabhupada tells. And everyone was dancing and they were wearing something called tuxedos. Tuxedo was really fancy, black. And what happened is Charlie Chaplin went to the bathroom and he sat on something and he had a little tear in the tuxedo. So he just tore it all the way up in the back, straight up. So it was in two parts. And so he continued dancing. And then when everyone saw that, they thought it was the latest style. And so everyone went in the bathroom and tore their tuxedos, and the whole place, the whole dance hall was filled with people dancing with torn tuxedos. And that's a Prabhupada example from a movie.
Jai, you're authenticated.
What's that?
I said you're authenticated.
Authorized.
That's right.
Another time, Prabhupada, Prabhupada in the movies. One time Prabhupada was in the airplane and they were playing a Charlie Chaplin movie. You probably heard this story. And all the devotees were trying not to look at it. They thought, we can't look at the movie. It's hard. In the old days, they used to have the movies on a screen. Now they can play them. Each you have your individual screens. And finally they looked at Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was watching the movie and laughing and laughing and laughing. So, to be a pure devotee doesn't mean he's like completely, just like aloof from everything in this world. You have to be. So anyway, so the deputy sheriff, so someone was empowered. So that principle of empowerment, that's called Shaktavesh. And what descends, the avatar, is the Shakti. But sometimes the person also descends. It depends. So Prabhupada actually came from the spiritual world. So it's not that only Prabhupada had the potency given by Krishna, but the person Prabhupada came from the spiritual world. Just a little bit different. But as far as we're concerned, we have not come from the spiritual world. We came from somewhere else, Yamaraj or whatever. And if it's to, then the Shakti is what Avesh, Shaktavesh, avatar. The Shakti is what descends. And if I'm able to give spiritual knowledge, then there's a Shaktavesh avatar there. The Shakti is descending, but not me. I didn't descend, I ascend. Ascend. As they say. We used to have a song when I was young. If you get to Godhead before I do, just drill a hole and pull me through. You ever hear that song?
Actually, no, I have. It's been like about 30 years, though, 40 years.
Yeah. Anyway, see, you take up Krishna consciousness, you can remember everything, even the bad stuff. 70 years old and I remember all this stuff. It's amazing, isn't it? So having a good diet, good practice. So, any other questions before we end tonight?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, one friend said to me, about the mind, talking about the mind, controlling the mind. He said, but control is not the right word, because in Bhagavad Gita they said it's easy to control window, to control mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he said, how? Can you explain?
Well, you focus the mind.
Yeah.
In one sense, you can't control the mind, you can focus it. And Krishna attracts the mind. Krishna is the one, Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindyo. If you focus the mind on Krishna, Krishna will attract the mind, and then the mind will naturally become still. Otherwise, there's another experience I had, that when I was young, I tried to make I told you all the other day, I used to do yoga in the forest. And you try to make the mind still, and then, what I tried to do is make the mind free of all thoughts. And so as soon as I thought, I had the mind free of all thoughts. I became very happy, but I was thinking that the mind is free of all thoughts. Anyway. It's like a trick, you can't. You just can't. You have to focus the mind on something. And then Krishna will help you control the mind. Actually, Arjuna in the Gita, 6th chapter says, the mind is restless, turbulent, strong, and to control it is more difficult than controlling the wind. And Krishna says, by constant practice and detachment. It's interesting he answers that. So what is that practice? The practice is to focus the mind, because Krishna ends the 6th chapter, Namapi Sarvesham, of all yogis the best is Amadgatena Antaratmana, one who makes me the goal. With Shraddhavan Abhajate Yomam, he worships me with faith. Shraddha is very important. It doesn't mean just faith, it means to give your heart. Da means to give. Shrak is so it means to actually give your heart. So normally, the sun Time.